Good morning, viewers. Today's topic is learning how to use the time of peace to prepare for war. This message is a continuation of what I shared on this channel on the 23rd of September 2023, whose theme was, "We know nothing about what will happen in the future. What should we do?" And I'm going to start from where I left off by reading chapter 24 of Matthew, verses 36 to 39. And this is how it reads. "But about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." In this chapter, that is chapter 24 of the Gospel according to St. Matthew, Jesus gives a detailed account of the events that would take place before the end of age and before the day of his second coming. And what frightens and surprises me is that he likens the time before his second coming, which he refers to as the coming of the Son of Man, to the period before the destroying and unprecedented flood that happened in Noah's day. We are told in that story that this flood destroyed animals, creatures that move along the ground, and birds of the air, together with human beings, apart from Noah and his family and a few selected creatures. So, if that is how it is going to be before the coming of the Son of Man, it's high time we figured out what we must do to escape the destruction that will come accompanying that day. But before we do that, we must first look into what triggered the all-destroying flood that happened in Noah's day. The Bible tells us in chapter 6 of Genesis that in those days the Lord saw how great man's wickedness on earth had become, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil all the time. The Lord grieved that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So the Lord said, I will wipe mankind whom I have created from the face of the earth, men and animals and creatures that move along the ground and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. What a mind-blowing statement. Many of us get married, and what we are desperately desiring to get is children, in the hopes that they will take care of us when we are old. We hope they will become someone great and make us proud. We invest heavily in them, trusting that they will be instruments of our well-being in old age. However, this doesn't always turn out to be the case. It is not unusual to find parents who are grieving because of their children and wishing they had died at childbirth. Some children rebel against their parents and refuse to go to school, even when their parents have enough money to pay for them school fees in any school of their choice. As a result, some of them become drunkards and useless. Some become thieves, and their parents have to part with a lot of money to get them out of jail because they have broken into someone's house and on and on. What would you do if you were such a parent, other than regretting why you ever produced such a child? In fact, you will even find cases in police where children have threatened to kill their parents leave alone those who have been sentenced because they have actually murdered their parents for reasons very funny. Maybe they have failed to give them land, or they have not paid dowry for them, or they have advised not to do this or that. So, having witnessed such instances, it should not surprise us that God regretted why he had created man and later decided to destroy him. As noted earlier, Noah and his family were not destroyed, and the Bible tells us that this was because Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Of course, Noah was part of the mankind God created and wanted to destroy. Why then doesn't Noah get destroyed? Why does Noah find favor in the eyes of the Lord? The Bible records in Genesis chapter 6 that Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. While his colleagues were corrupt and wicked, and their thoughts inclined towards evil, Noah chose to do something different. He chose to be blameless. He chose to walk with God. And this proves to us that if you do what everybody does, you will get what everybody gets. And the reverse is true. Noah did not do what everybody did, and so he received what everybody did not receive. I'm sure if Noah had chosen to be corrupt and wicked like the rest of his contemporaries, he would also have been destroyed by the flood. But as it is, he was saved. And this is a very important truth that we should not forget when we are tempted to do something because everyone does it. That is a foolish thing that we can do. Noah lived at the same time and in the same circumstances as his contemporaries. But Noah chose to live righteously and blamelessly. They did not know what the future held for them, but this did not stop Noah from doing what was right, while his contemporaries chose to indulge in wickedness and corruption. Therefore, the choices we make determine our destiny. And I think this is another way of saying you reap what you sow. We live in a day where at every turn you meet a corrupt government official. We live in a day where the parents and teachers we look up to for guidance and inspiration in good living are sexually immoral and adulterous. I think we have heard of parents who have actually slept and impregnated their own daughters. We have heard cases of teachers who have slept around and ended up impregnating the pupils they teach. And we also live in a day where we have many dishonest and hypocritical religious leaders. And we also have a lot of deceitful businessmen, and the list goes on and on and on. However, we don't have to do what everybody does. We, like Noah, can choose to live blamelessly among the people of our day and find favor with God. The Apostle Peter tells us in his second letter, chapter 3 and verses number 11 and 12, that we ought to live holy and godly lives as we look forward to the day of the Lord and speed its coming. This is a very important point to note. If you look at what was happening before the flood and what Jesus said would happen before his second coming, there is a sense in which one must conclude that destruction is usually preceded by a period of apparent peace and prosperity. You notice that before the flood, people were enjoying life, eating, drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage, and they were anticipating no danger. And all of a sudden, trouble comes and the people are destroyed. There is a sense in which ease and comfort and luxury make us forget what Jesus said in John chapter 16, verse 33, where he said that in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. We know nothing about what form this trouble will take, but trouble will inevitably come. I'm not sure whether we are misled by the last part of this statement that Jesus makes in John, where he tells us to take heart, so that when things are going well for us, we think it will last forever, and we forget to prepare for trouble. However, in my view, taking heart does not mean relaxing and doing what we feel like doing, eating what we feel like eating, drinking whatever we feel like drinking, or marrying as many wives as we possibly can. There is a sense in which taking heart implies preparation for the trouble that will inevitably come. If you are told, for example, that there is an enemy ahead, suppose you are going somewhere and they told you that you are going to meet an enemy ahead whom you have to fight and overcome before you can reach your destination, what do? I don't think you go to a supermarket to buy sweets or necklaces, or to go to look for the most beautiful woman because you fear dying without children. No, I think if they tell you that there is an enemy ahead, the wisest thing to do is to prepare. Because if you have no option and you have to take that way, you have to prepare how to fight that enemy and overcome him without getting destroyed yourself. So what do? You think about getting the safety gear, you think about getting the fighting equipment, you think about training yourself and the people you are traveling with, so that when eventually you meet this enemy, you are ready and you'll be able to overcome him and defeat him and continue your journey without being destroyed. I think this is why we are told in Ephesians chapter 6, verses 13 to 17, that we put on the full armor of God, the full armor of God. And this armor includes the belt of truth, which I'm sure many of us hate. And it also includes the breastplate of righteousness. We see this happening in the life of Noah. It also includes the shield of faith. It includes the helmet of salvation. And of course, the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And that's why we are also told to throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, as recorded in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. Of course, when you are going for war, you don't want to carry things that will make it difficult for you to run if running becomes necessary. So you have to throw off the things that hinder. You go light if you have to face this enemy and defeat him without being destroyed. Job also observed in chapter 14 of the book that bears his name that man born of a woman is of a few days and full of trouble. He springs up like a flower and withers away. Like a fleeting shadow, he does not endure. Again, this emphasizes the fact that trouble is inevitable and we had better prepare for it because it can come anytime. In the parable of the rich fool recorded in the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 12, the ground of a certain man had produced a good crop, giving him a bumper harvest. He planned to tear down the existing barns because he considered them too small to contain all his produce. And he was convinced that by doing that, he would have plenty of good things laid up for many years, during which he would take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. Little did he know that that very night his life was going to be demanded of him. Again, this underscores my earlier assertion that prosperity precedes destruction. In 2019, those of us who still remember, life was going on well. People were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. People were earning and investing and making, and many businesses were doing fine. And many people were testifying about the goodness of the Lord. Suddenly, COVID-19 came and claimed millions of people worldwide. Economies were locked, and thick darkness descended upon the world, and no one knew what would happen next. You would only thank God that you have seen another day. The world over were never expected this to happen, and the whole world was largely unprepared. Not long ago, we were thanking God for the peace and stability of our country, when suddenly we heard that some ADF rebels had attacked a school in Kasese and killed nearly 40 pupils. And before that, while we were still processing that, we heard that some suspected terrorists were planting bombs at churches in Kampala, and all of a sudden the country went on tenterhooks. Almost on a daily basis, while we are praying and thanking God for journey mercies, people continue to perish in motor accidents. And it is important to note that these accidents don't discriminate. The poor and the rich, the young and the old, educated and uneducated, government officials and non-government officials, the religious and non-religious people, the married and unmarried, the productive women and the barren women, all of us have had a share of the grief that is occasioned by these road accidents. So, what should we do? In Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 12, we are reminded that no man knows when his hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so men are trapped in evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them. Again, this emphasizes the need for us to prepare for trouble every day, whether things are going well with us or not. We must learn to live every day as if it was our last. In fact, when things are going well, that's when we need to be on high alert, because as surely as night follows day, trouble will come, and God will surprise us with a reversal of what we call happiness. So we must learn to use the time of peace to prepare for war, because it is only a fool who starts to prepare for war when the war is already at hand. God bless you.